and the ecosystem diversity. And we will discuss about one by one what is the genetic diversity. The diversity on the level of the genes or the chromosomal level, that is the genetic diversity. The diversity within the species or the इंट्रा और द इंफ्रा स्पीसीज डाइवर्सिटी. एग्जाम्पल के लिए जैसे हम देखेंगे, जैसे जिराफ पॉपुलेशन है, only giraffe population, the genetic diversity due to the color variation, due to the height variation and the patches of the variation, and the different colors of the corn is due to the genetic diversity. Second one is the species diversity. That is the variety of the living species in a particular area is known as the species diversity, and it is measured by the species richness or the species evenness. And what is the species richness? That is the total number of the species present in a particular area is known as the species richness. And what is the species evenness? That is the evenness in the number of the individual of one species in a particular area is known as the species evenness. And each species play a unique role in the ecosystem, and generally we measure the species richness, that is the greater the species diversity of the earth system. Now the ecosystem diversity, the variety of the different ecosystem like the aquatic or the terrestrial ecosystem like the forest ecosystem, desert ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, ocean ecosystem is the indication of the ecosystem diversity. And the diversity, the combined characteristic of the biotic as well as abiotic properties known as the biodiversity and the geodiversity. Why it is important for us and the importance of the biodiversity in our life. That is the conjunctive value, like the food provision of the food, provision of the medicines, oil, and the other raw material are observed or the fulfilled by the biodiversity. And the social value includes the traditional values, recreation values, educational and research values, and the ecological value. Biodiversity balances the nature and the biological productivity, and it regulates the climate change and the global warming and purification of air and water and the degradation of waste and help in the recycling of the nutrient. It help in the detoxification of the soil and the stabilization of the land, and it also regulate the carbon sequestration and reduce the impact of the climate change. Why loss of the biodiversity? Because of the main threats of to loss of the biodiversity, these are the deforestation and the land conversion and destruction of the habitat and the over exploitation of the natural resources due to the pollution of the environment like the air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, etc., and the global climate change and the global warming, interference of the ecosystem by the alien species and the invasive species, and the genetic manipulation of the species interfere and loss of the biodiversity. Why we conserve the biodiversity? What is the conservation of biodiversity? The safeguarding, protection, maintain, and wise use of the nature and natural resources is known as the conservation of the biological diversity. And why we regulate it? Because it maintain habitat is fundamental to conserve the species that are exist on the earth system, and it maintains the natural ecological process in whole ecosystem and manage to adaptability in response to environmental change and climate change and global warming, and it minimize the introduction and spread of the invasive or the alien species on the earth. These are the various convention on the biodiversity for to maintain or the protection for the biological diversity. First, the Convention of the Biological Diversity, also known as the CBD, is adopted in 1992. It is a legally binding treaty to conserve the biodiversity and it for the mainly endangered species or the critically endangered species on the earth. And the second one is the Biological Diversity Act, which were implemented in 2002 to ensure the conservation of biological diversity and the fair uses of its resources, and also it prevent extra over exploitation of the biodiversity. And the Wildlife Protection Act, which was implemented in 1972 to protect the wild animals like flora and fauna that are exist in a particular ecosystem or in the wildlife ecosystem, and it ensure the environmental and ecological security. After that, IUCN, that is the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, created the Red List. Red List, also known as the Red Data Book, that are published in the 1964, and it is an inventory of the global scale to conserve the species of the both plant and animals, and it is most comprehensive database for the conversion of the animals and plant species all over the globe. And these are the extinct species like the dodo passenger pigeon, dodo, and the golden toad. These are the extinct animals, and these are the critically endangered species in India: great Indian bustard and the big pygmy hawk. And these are the list created by the IUCN, 8 categories which are given by the ICN, that is are extinct in the wildlife and threatened species. These are the highly critical species, and these are the endangered species. These are the vulnerable species, and the highly critical endangered species great Indian bustard of India, and these are the near threatened species and the least concerned species. These are the data deficient species categories by the red list or the red data book. These are the conserving status about the biodiversity and the created by the IUCN. These are the red list and show the amphibians 41% species lost due to the climate change or the climatic factors, and 37% sharks and rays, and 36% corals, 34% conifers, 27% mammals, and 13% birds are lost due to the climate change. Biodiversity conservation approach. What are the biodiversity conservation approach? These are the two main approaches: in situ as well as ex situ conservation approach. In situ, these are the on-site conservation approach. Ex situ conservation approach, that is the off-site conservation approach. In situ or the on-site conservation approach are those approaches that are implemented on the natural habitat or in which place the natural and natural species of animals or plant lives. And these are the national park, wildlife sanctuary, biosphere reserve, and second two. Ex situ conservation or off-site conservation efforts are zoological parks, botanical gardens, gene banks, and cryopreservation techniques. First, all we in situ conservation, that is the biosphere reserve. Biosphere reserve to maintain the cultural or the landscape values of the particular ecosystem, like the marine ecosystem or as well as terrestrial ecosystem. In India, there are 18 biosphere reserve. Total in the world, there are the 738 biosphere reserve are present in 2023, and biosphere reserve network was launched by the 1971 by the UNESCO under the Man and Biosphere Reserve program. And these are mainly focus on the conservation function and the development function as well as logistic support function to provide the balance or the ecological support to the earth ecosystems. Now the biosphere reserve have three zones: core zone, buffer zone, and the transition zone. This figure shows the core zone, and these are the core zone to protect the animal as well as there is no disturbance in the core zone. And after that, this area is known as the buffer zone. It only for scientific research, monitoring, or training, or research or education purpose. These are remain only limited amount. But this is the outermost zone. This is a transition zone. It is the part of the biosphere reserve that promote the sustainable development for the social and the economic value, and the agroforestry also allow in this area. And in India, there are the first biosphere reserve established in 1986. That is the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. It shares the boundary of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala, three states. And the Great Run of Kutch Biosphere Reserve. This is the largest biosphere reserve in Gulf of Kutch, and it is present in Gujarat and established in 2008. Dibru Sekhawa Biosphere Reserve. It is the smallest biosphere reserve present in Assam, and established in 1997. Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve, that is the highest biosphere reserve present in Sikkim and established in 2018 by the government of India. And these are the 18 biosphere reserve which are present in our India, and the map showing the various biosphere reserve present in particular states. And what is the national park? In India, there are the 106 national park, and in world total 390 national park present, and establishment by the ICN category, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resource. And these are those areas mainly focus on the both flora and fauna of the particular ecosystem. It is marine as well as terrestrial national park. And first national park in India, that is the Jim Corbett National Park, present in Uttarakhand, established in the 1936. Largest national park, that is the Hamish National Park, present in Ladakh, and smallest national park, South Button Island, present in Andaman and Nicobar, and established in 1987. And floating national park, only or the world floating national park present in India, that is the Manipur State Kebul Lamjau National Park, established in 1977 under the IUCN category. And what is the wildlife sanctuaries? This in India, there are 573 wildlife sanctuaries are present to save the only one species or the two or the more species to be preserved. Like these are the migratory bird of the Siberian crane from Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary. This focus on the uh, Siberian crane conservation. And these are the cultivation of the land, grazing and the forestry are allowed some limited extent, and private or the government ownership is permitted. Boundary is not well demarcated. And bird sanctuary in Odisha, Chilka Lake, and Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary, Gurugram in Haryana. And the in Gurugram Bird Sanctuary, the Siberian crane, that is the migratory bird species in winter season. This figure shows the Siberian crane, and this is the Chilka Wildlife Sanctuary present in Odisha. Now the ex-situ or the off-site conservation of the flora and fauna. The first botanical garden documented collection of the living plant for the purpose for the scientific education, research, training and conservation and discipline education. In India, there are 122 botanical garden present. The oldest botanical garden in India, the Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Indian Botanical Garden, present in Kolkata. And the Indian Botanical Garden Havna, that is present in West Bengal, that is the largest park in India. National Botanical Research Institute, that present in the Lucknow. Government Botanical Garden Ooty, and this is the beautiful government botanical garden Ooty, present in the Nilgiri Hill. And the world largest herbal garden, that is present on the Morni Hill, Panchkula in Haryana. Now the zoological garden or in India. What are the zoological gardens? The zoological park are those areas which provide the facility for the breeding or the captive breeding in a boundary wall. That in India there are the 300 zoological park present in Ari Nagar Annar Zoological Park, that is the largest zoological garden present in Chennai. It is very oldest zoo in the India. Second one is the National Zoological Park present in New Delhi, Alipur Zoological Garden in Calcutta, and Sri Venkateshwara Zoological Park present in Tripura in Andhra Pradesh. That's the Asia largest zoo. The Sanjay Gandhi Biological Park present in Patna, and Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park, mainly for the conservation and breeding program for the red panda and snow leopard, present in Darjeeling. This is the Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological. This is the red panda for the conservation status and the breeding center for this Himalayan Zoological Park. This is the Arignagar Anna Zoological Park in present in Chennai, and this is the Alipur Zoological Garden present in Kolkata. Now the gene bank or the seed bank. Gene bank mainly for the preservation of the DNA, gene or the somatic cell, also known as the DNA bank, gene bank or the somatic cell bank. It is the biorepository that preserves genetic material for the future concern For plant, this is done by the in vitro storage, freezing, cutting from the plant or storing the seeds. For animals, this is done by the freezing of sperms, eggs in zoological freezer until further need or the for future plan. Conserved for the long term. And in India, there are the 16 gene bank present till date. National Gene Bank. Establishment: the National Gene Bank was notified in 1996 to 97, hosted by the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resource in New Delhi. And this the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resource, mainly for the plant genetic material storage, headquartered at New Delhi. Need for the in situ and the ex situ germplasm conservation through Delhi headquarters and 10 regional stations in our India. And world second largest gene bank, that is the Nanaji Deshmukh Plant Genomics Centers in New Delhi, and also combating for the climate change. National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resource that are present in Lucknow, purpose to conserve the plant genetic resource for future generation in the form of seed, genomic resource, and the pollen grains, etc. And the Indian Seed Vault, that is the largest seed bank in India and the second largest seed bank in the world. This is the Indian Seed Vault, present in Ladakh, Changla, Top, and very low temperature. The storage of the seed or the gene. It was built in 2010 jointly by the Defense Institute of High Altitudinal Research and the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, and it is the world largest seed bank, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault in Norway House. This is the world, but this is the second largest seed bank in our India. Now the breeding centers in India. There are the various breeding centers in India, like the Project Tiger was implemented by the 1973 by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and there are the 55 tiger reserve in India and the tiger state, Madhya Pradesh, the tiger state that is have the highest number of the tiger. And after that, the Project Elephant established in 1992 by the Government of India under the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Elephant Reserve. There are the 33 in India. And after that, the Crocodile Conservation Program Project 1975 under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. And there are the 22 crocodile breeding center in India till date. Crocodile Breeding Center, Kurukshetra, Haryana is a famous crocodile breeding center, and Crocodile Breeding and Management Training Institute present in Hyderabad, and the Jatayu Conservation Breeding Program for the vulture conservation in Pinjore present in Panchkula in Haryana, and the world largest breeding and the conservation of the Indian vulture. And Indian vulture is a highly critical endangered species. And as we all know that the 22nd May, we celebrate the International Day for the Biodiversity, and 2020 biodiversity theme from agreement to action, build back biodiversity. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Okay. I thankful to Dr. Urbanwala ma'am from the Environmental Science Department, Gurugram University from Haryana. Ma'am, it's an informative session, and we have to study so many aspects of the biodiversity, such like land detoxification, genetic manipulation, deforestation, over-exploitation, conservation, and you also tell us the acts, basically BD Act 2022, and also the gene bank and seed bank. So this one is a basically very informative session for our participants and for our conference. So I really thankful, ma'am. I should thank you again. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much you to visit the university once the weather becomes a little bit comfortable.
Okay, ma'am. I definitely come.
Okay. Thank you.
मानसा में